name. Laurie Guest, what is going on, my friend? It is great to see you again.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Phil. This is always a joy to sit and talk to you. I'm thinking only for that long, we could go all day and never run out of content. I know.
I know. Isn't that amazing? That is so cool. So, because I'm not as passionate about customer service and customer experience as you are, but I'm pretty close here. And this new book, I have to tell you, I think it's your best work yet. So, congratulations on a great
thanks.
book.
I'm excited about it too.
Yeah, so cool. So 10 cents, 10 cents is all we need to invest. So if I just pay my people another dime an hour, is that what you're talking about here, Laurie?
Nope, that's not what I'm talking about. So the reason I named it this is because I'm a bottled water connoisseur. So I can give you the top 10 best bottled waters in priority order if you care, right? And so it bothers me, and I noticed it one time when I paid about $400 to stay in a hotel, and when I got to the room, there was a room temperature bottle of water with a tag on it that said, enjoy, $7. And it drove me crazy. I mean, really, for $400, I'm expecting a Chippendale and a foot massage in my room, right? And instead, there's bottled water that's room temperature and $7. And the thing is, you and I both know that hotel could choose to bring in a semi-load of water for about 10 cents a bottle if they wanted to. Now, we could discuss all day long the reasons why they don't choose to do that, but the very next hotel I stayed in was a boutique style, so they don't have to live by industry standards. They can do whatever they want. And when I got to my room, there was a black mini fridge, and inside was 2 ice cold bottles of water, free, with a sign that said, with our compliments. So my perceived value is much higher, and perceived value is today's economy. That's really our today's, how we're going to differentiate ourselves in the economy. And I think that you can make these decisions that cost you little to nothing, 10 cents. And I don't mean literally 10 cents, but low cost, no cost ideas that makes a huge impact with our end user. That's the gist.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more. I think it's such a great reminder that we can make these choices, right? Hence why the name is the 10 cent decision, to really impact our customers' lives. So is 10 cents though, is that really gonna make us more profitable? I mean, if we keep making these 10 cent decisions, doesn't that cost us money, Laurie?
Well, I don't think it does, because most of the ideas in the book actually don't cost you anything. It's about behavior. It's about changing our behavior as a leader to spot what's really important and put as much time into that as you just do running the numbers or looking at the profit margin. And from a team aspect, it's about your interactions with the end user, which is why one of the things I'm excited about with the book, and for those who are watching us on Facebook, you actually can see it, it's two-sided. So if you are a team member, you read it from the front cover to the middle, and if you're a leader, get this, you flip it over and you read it from the back cover to the middle. So half the book is upside down, and there is no repeat content except my explanation, the long version of why I call it the 10 cent decision. Other than that, it's all unique on each side. And so my thinking is that customer service, the secret is an integrated approach. Everybody should read the whole book. But when I was writing it, I kept getting tripped up because I kept saying, if you're the team member or the leader, if you're this or that, and I realized I wasn't getting clear. You know, when we write, we have an avatar, who you're writing to. And one of my buddies in my mastermind group said, why don't you write 2 books in one? Write half the book to the team member so you stay focused on that, that audience, and then switch and do the other half to the leader. And once he said that, it just, everything clicked, and the book came out of me in a big hurry once I got clear on who I was talking to. So.
Yeah, well, I do think it's really illustrative that you would write for both pieces, because I think if you're frontline, you have to understand how your manager thinks, and if you're a manager, you better understand how your people think, and if you're training, you have to do both. So how do you make sure that this isn't just some awesome book that they read, that they actually implement? Like what's a step or two that people can take to actually implement that? And then we'll talk about some of the strategies.
Sure, absolutely. Well, one of the things I had a hard time deciding if I was going to do with the book or not, in my first book, which was a personal retreat book, at the end of every chapter, there were questions to ask yourself. And I felt like that was me sitting down and being your best friend over coffee to help ask challenging questions. And Phil, with you and I being friends, I do think that's one of the things I can bring to a friendship, is I don't judge your decisions, but I can ask you some really good questions that make you judge your own decisions. And I think that's part of being a good friend. And I thought, well, how can I take that same, what is very important to me personally, and move that over to this book? And then I realized, well, if I was coming in and working with your team today, we might work on one of these chapters, and then I would have questions I would get you to talk about as a group to get it specifically to relate to you. And I thought, why couldn't I have those same type of group discussion questions at the end of every chapter? And it'll look similar to my first book and really be the core of who I am. And so that's what I did. The chapters are really short. They're designed that way on purpose. It's actually a pretty quick read. And when you read that in testimonials, you think, well, I hope they didn't think a quick read was a wasted read. But I actually think today we don't want a big fat novel, or we never get through it. If they're quick and easy and then they can apply it immediately to their lives at work, we're going to have results. And when we take a dime and we stack 10 of them together, one on top of the other, we get a little tower that turns into $1, and then rinse and repeat. Stack a couple dollars, we get a $10 bill. You can stack as many of these as you want to begin to create actual profitability in the workplace without spending a fortune.
Wow, I love that. That really is a 10-cent solution on a 10-cent decision if we actually make it right, stacking them up to offer us even more powerful results. I really dig that. So, and I would agree, though it's short, it's impactful, which is really super great, because I like stuff that I can implement. And one of the things you talk about right away in the beginning, and this actually surprised me, is about finding the right energy zone of your buyer, because, you know, I'm pretty live at Budokai, coming at you live and in person. Oh boy.
Here he comes.
Yeah, here he comes, right?
Yeah.
They can see me coming from a mile away, and yet you say it's important to match as opposed to just bringing in the juice. So what's that mean, Laurie?
Okay, so I think of the energy zone, and for those listening on the podcast, I've got my hands up right now with a space in between that makes me think of almost like an EKG heart monitor. And inside my hands right here is a monitor that goes up and down according to the situation. That's what brings life, right, is the up and down. And there are some people who arrive to work and they're outside the energy zone on the top side, and they're what we refer to as our Susie Sunshines, right? They come to work, good morning, you know, their pitch is high, their energy is too high, and it doesn't match the feel of the classiness maybe of an organization. And then below the grid, you've got your boring bobs, the ones that are dragging themselves in, complaining that it's Monday, and they have to get their energy up. So after we get everybody in the zone, then here's the important part. Is the way you're talking to your customer matched to the situation? For example, I was in healthcare. I was in eye surgery, ophthalmology to be specific. And part of my job was to take the patch off your eye the day after surgery and be able to check your vision and prep you for the doctor's eye exam. Now, Phil, if you just had eye surgery, of course, you're nervous, you're worried. I take that patch off, and let's say you don't see as well as we hoped you would. Didn't happen very often, but let's say it did. And all of a sudden my energy is, oh, now, Mr. Grubishek, can you try to read the letter on the top? My pitch is high, my energy's on the high end of the zone. That's a complete disconnect to how the severity of the situation. So I can bring great service to you by matching where you're at, but still being engaged. Now it sounds like this. I know it might be difficult, but try very hard to read the biggest letter on the screen. Can you do that for me, please? See how I've brought my pitch down? Now, it sounds fake because we're role playing it, but you can tell by bringing my pitch down, I'm engaged in the fact that we are not both, neither one of us is excited about what's happening right now, and that means that I'm in the moment. And you see it, if you start watching for this, it is amazing to me how often care providers or service providers are not engaged in the moment, and it creates a disconnect.
Yeah, I think being fully present is one of the biggest gifts that we can give to our customers, to our clients, to those that we serve. Because if we're not in the moment, we sound all over the place. We don't sound like we're there.
And say stupid things. I was on a flight 2 weeks ago out of Philly that got canceled, and we were already loaded up and locked in and everything before they had to get us off the plane. The flight attendant was doing a spectacular job in her customer service languaging. She was showing all the empathy for the people missing flights to important places and important events. Everything was perfect. And my mind was giving her 2 thumbs up. I was even going to take a picture with her and do a blog post about how good she was. And then when she actually got the go-ahead to get us off the plane, she kicked into robotic mode. And after we all stood up, she goes, now you all have a wonderful evening. Okay, her heart monitor was up here. None of us are leaving Philly that night because it was the last flight out. So she got an entire plane full of people that are extremely disappointed and most of them angry. And she has this platitude here that doesn't even mean anything to the moment. That's a disconnect. And it would have cost nothing for her to stay in the moment and use better phrasing.
So why do you think, I'm asking you to psychoanalyze here, but why do you think she move to robotic, and why do you think that many customer service people flip to robotic at some point?
That is a really good question. If I thought about that, I would have put that in the book, because that is a great question. And the answer is, I think there's two reasons. One, it's what we know best, right? So when things get tense or when we are kicking into the launch sequence, we have a certain way we do things, right? So no matter what situation we're in, where those words have been conditioned to come out of our mouth, it's the same way where they stand at the mouth of the plane and say, bye-bye now, bye-bye now. They say it over and over again because that position has conditioned that, even though that really isn't the best phrase they could use. So one is, I think it's an old habit. And in some situations, maybe not in this one, but in others, it is the protective, it's the insulation too. This is what I'm supposed to say. So that's what's protecting me from getting in trouble with my boss. I'm following the policy and procedures, so I must say it this way. I can think of a very popular fast food restaurant. I'll let it stay nameless, but they're known for their customer service. They're in the Midwest area, and when they greet you there, they go over the top in their greeting. "It's my pleasure to take your order today." And I'm thinking, you're giving me a fried chicken sandwich. I'm having a hard time believing that you're that excited. So they have great customer service training, but they don't bring it to the level that matches what's happening here.
Wow. I think that's right on. I think it's so easy to just check the box with customer
Yes.
service that we often don't engage our heart muscle.
I
We
think
just,
that's true.
we just check that off. Oh, yep, I said that. That's enough. That's all I needed to do. And so, yeah, that's unfortunate though, and that's certainly is a lost opportunity. So, as a leader though, how do we empower people to think with their heart more than their brain?
Well, I think that we have to empower, but training comes first. And I am amazed at the number of people that I do business with. You're a trainer, you know this, is that if we don't have a system for onboarding you properly and teaching you the culture of our organization, what's acceptable, what's not, what's your empowerment boundaries, if we don't spend a lot of time doing that, then how can we expect you as our new employee to behave the way we want? And I know behave is a strange word maybe, but I really believe it, because we think people have common sense when it comes to customer service. That's where I think the misnomer is. And there is no such thing as common, right? We all come from we were raised in different homes with different environments. We had probably another job before the one we're working right now. So the behavior we had at our old job was acceptable, but it may not be what you can do when you come to your new job. And so it can't be just left to chance. And I just meet so many people that have one day of orientation. I'll say, when did you do your last customer service training? Well, we do that on the first day they start. And how long does that process last? Oh, just the first day. Okay, the first day you work somewhere, you're still trying to figure out, where do you hang your coat? Where do you punch in? And who are you going to eat lunch with? Those are the things you're thinking about on your first day. You're not truly absorbing our culture of service until much later into the process. My point is, as leaders, there should be consistent training that's long-term. We're never done. Even people who've been there 30 years, they might be the very most important people to circle back and get a booster shot, a refresher course, because they've been doing it forever.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important. And as leaders then, we have to coach and reward and reinforce when those good behaviors happen. So how, you said frequently, right? So do you think quarterly? Do you think biannually? Do you think just once a year? I mean, is it every week, Laurie? What do you think about the frequency with which training and coaching has to occur?
I think it really depends on the nature of your industry and how much does frontline service matter? Is it that kind of service that you have to build up? Do we have to teach people at a mid-level manager how to reward it? I think the answer is always, it depends, but it has to be on a regular basis. I feel like if there's an ongoing learning platform of some kind, that's the very best, which means I can pinpoint train. Or one of my new favorite phrases that I recently heard is just-in-time training. I love that idea, is that today, Phil, you are the teller at the bank and you are missing a beat, or you're the loan officer and you're not on the edge of what's going on. I might be able to come and say, hey, I want you to watch the video on transitions. You're not transitioning our customers from point A to point B in the way we really want you to. Now it's a pinpoint. I'm giving you the exact thing I want you to work on, and I'm giving you the tool to do it. So I think my short answer would be ongoing, meaning anytime you need it, it's there and available.
Excellent. Excellent. So one of the things that is fascinating about you is you got really smart and really good at this, being an undercover shopper. I think that's
Right.
super fascinating. So
Yeah.
talk to us about what that entails and give me one or two lessons that were super important that you might have only gleaned because you were an undercover shopper.
Well, not too many people have asked me about that, and that's one of my favorite topics. So thanks for asking. Let me back up briefly and just explain what I even mean by secret shopping. So many years ago, I was hired to do a keynote for two groups of local entrepreneurs and business owners, and they were all people, most of them I was going to know personally. It was the early part of my career, and I knew I was talking about customer service, and I already was known in my area as having great customer service ideas because of the place where I used to be employed. We were kind of the poster child for service. But I knew in my heart that when I got ready to present, people who owned companies for a long time were going to give me that look, and it's that look that says, tell me something I don't know. You're going to tell me customer service 101. This is the track that was playing in my head. You're going to tell me customer service 101. We got this. My people do this. I don't really need to listen to you. That was my biggest fear. And I thought, how am I going to prove to them that you might know it, but your people aren't doing it? And then it dawned on me that if I would try to do business with every single one of the people ahead of time, any place that I could do business with, I would have data. And so I did it. I took about 3 weeks and I interacted with every single one of the businesses coming where it was appropriate to do so. And then I used that as my content. And I did a big reveal and I told who in the room totally rocked it. I gave out awards for the people who rocked it. And then everybody in attendance went home with a sealed envelope. And in the envelope, it told you what happened when I went to your place of business. Because rule of thumb, we praise in public and we criticize in private. And it wouldn't do me any good to criticize somebody in front of a whole room of their peers, right? Here's the interesting thing, Phil. The people who got criticisms or areas where they can improve, I never heard from them. The people who got gold, silver, and bronze all hired me. Don't you find that fascinating? The people who I already said was doing great, they probably didn't even need much from me. They're the ones who wanted to invest more, or they wanted me to come to their place and tell all their people how great they did. So leaders should hear this. People respond to positive reinforcement. I'm not calling people dogs, but think about how we train our dogs, right? We teach them to sit and then we reward, pet them and give them the treat and then rinse and repeat. So it's kind of the same way with people. Is that we recognize what they do well. That was such a big hit. I never had intentions of having a secret shopper division. I didn't realize that we would actually do this on any kind of regular basis. As small a company as I am, we can only take about 2 to 3 clients a year to do the full deep dive with. And so this year we did get our 3. And so we don't do it on a massive level. We do it on a very anecdotal level. So this is how I feel when I tried to do business with you. Here's some missed opportunities that I saw. So it's a little unique from the secret shopper companies you can hire, where you go into 7-Eleven and have a Slurpee and then evaluate what the situation was. It's not like that. It's very anecdotal.
Very, very cool. It sounds really, really powerful. So you learned that positive reinforcement works better. You learned about some of these anecdotes and things like that. Was there anything that you were like just completely blown away by that happened as a result of a secret shopper that maybe not ever happened as a result of a real shopping experience?
No, because I think it is so similar to a real shopping experience. What I think happens more often than not is the moments that surprise me that are fantastic. So the moments that disappoint me, I have to think about this a little bit. The moments where I go, oh yeah, that figures. In my own head, I'm going, yeah, I expected that. And then when I get in the car, I'm tapping my notes going, I knew that's what was going to happen. Those wouldn't surprise you. But the ones where people just went beyond the call of duty, you'd be like, really? So here's my favorite example. There was a bank that hired me to shop 14 locations. And what they were looking for is that they had this special promo they were doing that if you came in as a potential new customer and you kicked the tires with them and met with one of their personal bankers, you would turn in this postcard and you'd get some kind of welcome kit of some kind. And so the bank set me up with they sent me a fake or gave me a fake postcard, and we had a fake name and everything else. I showed up and I met with the personal banker, and she was spectacular. And she got so far into the process. Yeah, I use a fake name and everything else. We were so far along in the process with green lights the whole way. It's time for me to open the account, right? So I would have to have taken out my real driver's license and shown her and exposed the shop because she would know who I am then. And so instead, I dig through my purse and pretend I'd forgotten my wallet. So I had given her a fake address that I made up off the top of my head. I took the address where my husband and I used to live in a different town, used that as the street name, but put it in her town. And at the time she said, I don't think we have a street by that name. And I said, oh yeah, it's out in the new subdivision up north. I'm totally making this up. I don't even know if there is a new subdivision, right? So I bolt out of there and with promise that I'm coming back. But of course I don't. Fast forward 2 weeks. I'm at the event. ready to give out awards. I give her an award for dog with a bone, meaning that she is just on it, on it, on it. And when it's time for it, and it's a really nice prize, she comes up to the front. She has complete attitude. And I cannot figure out why she's so mad. So I actually step out of my speaker role and I go, I gotta ask, you look really mad. Turns out that night after she got off work, the gift baskets had come in after I left. She took a gift basket and drove all over town for a half hour looking for, and this is before a GPS had clicked in, she's driving around looking for the address I gave her. She goes, I couldn't find a subdivision. I couldn't find the house. I took a half hour of my personal time to try to give you this gift, and I never got to give you the gift. And I have used her story, the long version of it, many, many times, because who does that? Who goes out on their own dime, there you go out on their own dime and look for a customer just to try to make that sale? She does. That's amazing.
Wow. That
was
is
one
incredible.
of my fun stories.
That's a great story. I love that. Yeah, on their own dime. Yeah, you better put that in your story, Laurie. That's pretty darn good stuff.
I should have interviewed you before I wrote the book. There's some good stuff coming out of this.
There you go. Well, second edition, right? So
right.
That's perfect.
There's always more stories.
Absolutely. That's the wonderful things. And one of the things that I have to say that I appreciate about you the most is your giving way. You're a member of the National Speakers Association like me, and you always give away what you know. And I have to ask, why do you do that? Like, why do you give back in an association when, you don't have to? You're not required to. Why have you made that 10-cent decision?
I made that decision because when I started out, I didn't even know this was a career. And it was a fluke that I even landed in this association. And once I got started, that was really the whole theme at the time that I joined. Our founder, Cabot Robert, believed that you could make a bigger pie by sharing. And I had all these people who shared with me when I knew nothing, when I was as green as you could be. And I always promised myself that if there was a point where I had any kind of sage wisdom that I could pass on to somebody else, that I would, as they say, pay it forward. I'd give it to the next person. And I found that it was very rewarding for me. Some great relationships have developed from it. And I've tried to encourage people in other industries, don't hold on to your secrets so tight. Because the fact of the matter is many people will listen to us and never take action. You know that. They'll listen, but they don't do what they're supposed to do. Or they listen to what you say and they go and they do great. And there's nothing better than them reaching back out to you and saying, I made more money because of you, or I have better relationships because of you, or whatever they're going for. What could be more rewarding than that? And so to me, I never saw it as competition. I mean, even if I'm up for a job against another NSA member and I don't win the job, they win it instead of me, I actually don't feel that heavy of a, well, why didn't I get it, or I should have. I just don't feel that very much. I do have a family feel with this group. And I feel like in turn, I could also pick up the phone. I've done it with you before. I picked up the phone and said, help me with this. And you drop everything you're doing and you help me with something. And that's what this is all about, is because we work alone most of the time. Most of us are solopreneurs, so we need those people we can call who aren't sitting at the next cubby, but are in a different state on the other end of the phone.
Absolutely. Totally agree. That's why I love the association as well.
Yeah.
And it's good to hear. So let's put this all together, Laurie. One of the things you talk about towards the end of your book there is about creating an extraordinary guest encounter system. So let's step through that, right? Let's say that somebody picks up the 10-cent decision, and if you don't, you absolutely need to pick this book up. And you pick it up and you're like, all right, I got halfway through. Now what do? I actually want to make this happen. So, Laurie, can you step us through creating that extraordinary guest encounter system? Just give us a couple tips that can get us going.
Right. One of my favorites, I'm not even sure this is in the book now that I think about it. I have to check. I wrote it a while ago, right? But is to look at your place with what I call virgin eyes. So park where your customer parks. If you have a walk-in type business, walk in where they do and use all your senses. What does it smell like? What's it look like? Are you serving food? What's that taste like? I don't mean restaurant food. I mean, are you giving the little cookies out while I'm getting my oil changed? You know, a lot of places start out with the homemade cookies that were coming out of the owner's wife's kitchen, right? And then eventually there's those little lard balls that come in a tin can. If that's what you've gotten down to, just forget it. So what does it look like, feel like, taste like, smell like? All of those senses. And look around as if you've never been there before. You'll be shocked at some of the things that you see. Absolutely shocked. My favorite quick story on that, an eye doctor's office one time. Doctor invited me in to go to lunch with her because she thought her patient level was declining. And when I got there, there was this delightful receptionist. I thought maybe she would be the problem, but she wasn't. After she stepped away after visiting with me, there was a huge sign that had been hanging behind her head. And it said, I go from 0 to bitch in 0.7 seconds. And I'm looking at the sign thinking, how many people would be offended by that word I just said, like it's no big deal. A soft swear to me is a really big, nasty word to many, many of the patients that are walking into that place, especially by generations. And they saw mostly elderly patients. So that's a really poor choice. So get this, when I go to lunch, I listen to everything the doctor has to say. And then I say to her, so tell me about the sign. And you know what she said, right?
What sign?
That's exactly right. What sign? Because she'd never, and I don't know how long, walked out and saw her front desk from the front side. She was always coming from the back side. So that's my first advice to get started, is experience it exactly like a customer would. And that's sometimes hard to do. So find your own secret shopper. You don't need to hire a firm to do it if you don't want to. You can go out and ask a friend of a friend, hey, I want you to come and do business with us at a time when nobody knows that's the shopper. And give us a full report back. What did you like? What didn't you like? What did you notice that we should take, pay attention to? Those types of things. And again, it might cost you nothing. It might just be a favor ask. It might cost just a token amount, or maybe it's a trade-off. I did a hair studio one time where I sent in 25 shoppers and they all got free services, from hair coloring to haircuts to massages. And I found 25 shoppers who were very eager to do that for me, and we paid them nothing. So the only thing it cost the salon was the labor cost and of course the gratuities they paid their salon members. So you can get creative and really get insight into where people are missing the boat regarding service.
Wow. Wow. That's so brilliant. I love that. Experience your business like a customer would. So if you're a phone service, call in, wait on hold, see what that sounds like. If you're in person, step through it. Make sure you come in the front door, not the side or the back door. Check it out. See what that looks like. Really, really awesome. So Laurie Guest, if people want to connect with you and learn more about you in this fantastic book, The 10-Cent Decision, where would you send them?
That's exactly where they go, 10centdecision.com. They can use the 10 or spell out TEN. That's the book only website. And when they get there, they'll be able to take a peek in it. There's a little trailer video that gives you more info. And the best part is, if they go to buy the book, there's a place where you can put in a coupon code. And if they use the word podcast, all in one word, they get 20% off the book. And that tells us they listened to one of the podcasts we were on this season. And we know that they were listening, which is important. If people want to know about me, the speaker, and the services that go with that, then it's myname.com. So laurieguest.com or 10-Cent Decision. Everything you need to know, contact info and everything are right on those two spots.
Awesome. And for those of you who are spelling at home, it's LAURIE guest, GUEST.com, 10centdecision.com. Put in the code podcast to get 20% off. So Laurie, you are a treat as always. Thank you so much for investing some of your time and us today so we can all deliver better service 10 cents at a time. Really
Thanks for having me, Phil. Always a joy talking to you.
Absolutely. You too, my friend. Thank you for everything. And folks, if you're listening, if you're watching, and whatever you're doing, hopefully you'll decide to invest 10 more cents in your customer experience and go get a copy of the book again, 10centdecision.com. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.